You know, Sting, in the many years that we worked together in WCW, I probably conducted dozens and dozens of interviews with you. But I don't ever recall having the opportunity for this kind of a sit-down, one-on-one interview. And I'd like to cover some ground, maybe even in some interviews that has never been covered before on national TV with you. Take us back even before you got into professional wrestling. As a youngster growing up, were you interested in pro wrestling at all? Did you watch it on TV? Was there any intrigue there?
That's actually a really good question. A lot of people really don't know this about me, but growing up in the part of Southern California that I was in, I didn't have wrestling on TV to watch. So when I got into this health club business in the early 80s, and Hulk Hogan used to come in there and work out, and a few people in the gym would say, "Hey, you know who that is?" And I'd say, "No." I mean, I knew him from the Rocky movie, but as far as Hulk Hogan the wrestler, I had no idea, because, I mean, we just never saw wrestling on TV. So, and I'd heard the name Ric Flair, and I'd heard the name Hulk Hogan, but I had no dreams of becoming a pro wrestler, ever. So,
I guess initially you probably sent out a lot of pictures, photos, 8x10s, publicity pictures, background information, to promoters all over the world, all over the United States, certainly in an effort to get booked initially in one territory in those days, more of a regional situation. Fill us in a little bit on how that went.
Yeah, well, I co-owned this gym. Thankfully, at least I had that going for me, but I was also managing it, and I gave up my managerial duties to go through this wrestling camp, and as the weeks and months went on, found myself quickly, going broke, and realizing that, it was either going to be now or probably never. So we sent out some press kits, Jim Hellwig and me. Jim later became the Ultimate Warrior. And we sent, I don't know how many, just dozens upon dozens. I remember at least 100 that we sent out. And it wasn't just wrestling organizations. We were trying to break into anything that we possibly could where we'd be in front of the camera. And 3 days later, we got a phone call from Jerry Jarrett. And to this day, as far as we know, he is the only promoter, the only person that called us back of all those people. He called us back 3 days after we sent it out. We were in my house at the time in Southern California. The phone rang. It was Jerry Jarrett, and he says, "Listen, I got a picture of 4 of you guys here, but I only want 2 of you, and I want the 2 that are to the far left of this 8x10 glossy that he had," and that was Hellwig and me. And so we said, when? He said, "I need you out here by Thanksgiving Day." And so we were out by Thanksgiving Day that year. It was 1985.
And isn't it amazing, isn't it ironic as you look back over the years, among the cities, among the buildings on that first circuit, that first regional territory that you were a part of, was Nashville, the Nashville Fairgrounds, right, the TNA Asylum, almost as if everything has come full circle.
It has come full circle, yeah. When Jeff called me a few weeks ago and said, "Hey, we're going to have a year anniversary show. Would you be interested in doing it?" And we ended up working out some details, and yeah, I would do it. And I have come full circle, and it's for this time, instead of Jerry, it's Jeff. And part of me, I still can't believe I'm here and doing this, but it's actually a good thing. Jerry came up, shook my hand a few minutes ago. Real nice to see him again. I told him I saw him about 6 years ago in a hotel in New Orleans, and I said, "You know what? I'm not going to forget that you called me. You were the only promoter that called me back." And so I look at it as this is my chance to, hopefully, give back a little bit here.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Very bizarre.
Start off with favorite opponent.
Ric Flair.
Favorite match specifically?
There's more than one.
If you can narrow it down to one.
Probably Great American Bash 1990.
Dusty Rhodes.
One of the most charismatic, if not the most charismatic wrestler ever.
Eric Bischoff.
I know what I want to say. I'm just trying to think of short terms to put it in. You got to give credit where credit is due. Period. I mean, people rip him up too, but you know what? Bottom line is he He's the one that got Nitro going, and in the beginning he was a huge part of its success.
Roddy Piper.
Talented character.
Bret Hart.
Great finishing hold.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Very bizarre.
Vince McMahon.
Best chess player of all time.
Wow, tough to top that for an answer. Hulk Hogan.
Best chess player of all time.
1 and 1A?
There'll never be another Hulk Hogan. The Michael Jordan of wrestling is Hulk Hogan.
Randy Savage.
One of my favorite characters of all time.
What are your thoughts on the impact that the internet has had on professional wrestling in the past couple of years?
You know, it's good and bad. It really is. It just I really stopped paying attention to the internet. Even when most everybody was writing, you know, really good things about me, there's always going to be those that just want to rip you up. And you know, there's so many people, and every now and then somebody will say, "Hey, did you hear what so and so said?" And they'll read me this little thing that they got, and it's just like they just rip and tear it to shreds so much of the time. And it's like the people that do that, and some of them just, that's the only thing they know how to do, is just to rip it up. It's like, why do you watch? Why do you watch? You watch it because you love it. So start talking positive about it.
The final edition of Monday Nitro.
Actually, I had some tears in my eyes because the last match, maybe forever, with Ric Flair, and I knew it at the time, and I knew that, you know, maybe this was the end, period.
What a long, strange ride. The years with the NWA, the years with the World Championship Wrestling, certainly among the most positive aspects, I'm sure, for many of us, and certainly some negatives thrown in as well. Maybe think back as to the first time that you were the World Heavyweight Champion. NWA, here we go again, back to that, NWA World Champion.
Yeah, that was Baltimore, Maryland in 1990. That was a night that I'll never forget. Baltimore was always a great town to wrestle in. The fans were always like some of the best in the country. We're in Baltimore, and once again, you know, Rick made me look like $1 million, and I had just come off of reconstructive knee surgery, and so it was a big night back for me. I came back 5 months after blowing my knee out, and then and I should have been out probably for 7 months, but I came back early enough and trusted Rick enough to try to make it happen, and it ended up being pretty good.
Is there any way that you can concisely give me a response to the many years that you spent with World Championship Wrestling? What that roller coaster ride was really like?
Yeah, you know what? I felt that we were always a far cry from first place. We were always a long shot second place as far as wrestling organizations in this country, and even in the world. There was always the WWF, and then there was WCW. And man, we fought tooth and nail, and we ended up finally catching up, and Monday Night Raw all of a sudden was an item, and then, you know, our answer to that, thank God Ted Turner wanted to do something about that, and we had Nitro, and it was no hidden agendas, no hidden motives at the time by anybody, and the creative juices were flowing, and, you know, all of a sudden we were number one, and then we were way out number one.
You used the term cutting edge, and I think back to all the many different ways, as you mentioned, that you would rappel in. What was that like? Do you have any stories about the many hours that you had to spend sometimes up in the rafters of buildings in every city that you can imagine across the country?
Yeah, I have too many stories to list right now, but I mean, I can tell you to this day that, you know, if I had to do it tonight, you know, I'd be nervous beyond measure, and my sphincter would be very tight. They partnered up with me, helped me get back up on my feet, get my marriage, my family put back together because I was about ready to lose all of it, probably even my life.
Talk about your post-WCW days, and I know how important that Christianity has become in your life. Here at the NWA TNA organization, I've had the chance to talk to the Road Warriors, to Nikita Koloff, about the many great fellowship meetings that you attend along with them. Maybe bring us up to speed and tell us how important a role that Christianity plays in your life these days.
Well, it is the focal point of my life. It's the most important part of my life right now. You know, wrestling was really, really good to me over the years. I mean, really good, but at the same time, it was really bad. You know, there were lots and so much good and so much bad, you know, that went with it. And I'm thankful for wrestling, and I'm thankful for what I went through. And you know, God was molding me all along. But I finally, you know, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I realized what being a dad and a husband is really all about. And so I gave my life to Christ in August of '98, and my life just totally changed. The whole lifestyle changed overnight, literally overnight. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world to walk into the arenas and the hotels and the airports and see all the guys and you know, when my life had changed so dramatically, but somehow or another I did it.
Tell us about the Christian events that you're a part of. I mentioned DiBiase, the Road Warriors, right. Nikita Koloff. I know you go all over the world.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Ted and Nikita, those guys actually, you know, they'd come into the arenas sometimes in years past before my life had changed, you know, and they'd start talking about Jesus Christ, you know, and they'd talk about God, they'd talk about the church, and I'd be like, you know, is anyone going to be like hearing this conversation? And it was really tough for me, and I was kind of like, you know, embarrassed about it all. And those guys prayed quite a bit for me over the years, and when I gave my life to the Lord in August of '98, they partnered up with me, helped me get back up on my feet, get my marriage, my family put back together because I was about ready to lose all of it, probably even my life, because I was pretty bad off there for a while. It's amazing to have so much going for you, all the power and all the money and the fame and the fortune and everything that goes with it in the sport of pro wrestling, but at the same time just feel like your whole life is almost completely out of control and there's nothing that you can do to fix it.
Sting, we want to thank you very much for this opportunity to do this sit-down interview, the time that you took. Certainly appreciate it, and it's great to have you on board here with NWA TNA.
Well, thank you. I hope it's good for everybody.